Hi everyone, my name's Sarah, one of the Lavinia Stamps creative team, and today I'm showcasing a stamp from the Twilight Tea Collection. And as soon as I saw this collection, I knew I wanted to make a pocket. It immediately brought to mind tea like this, which I call fancy tea because normally it just comes in a box in a heap. And I've just grabbed these out of the cupboard, and interestingly there is, I didn't know this before, there was this one from Clipper has a teapot on the front, just like our sample. So in part one of these videos, I'm going to show you how to make this pouch, because this can sit alone, doesn't need anything in it. As I say, it's inspired by those packets, but it could have tags in here, it could have a little card in here, little gift card, it could be glued into your journal and have anything in. Notes, all sorts. I will just show you what I've got in mind. So again, inspired by tea bags, I have got, let's just open one of these PG tips, is one I would use. So the fact that we've got that string and that little label on the end is what inspired this. So I've got a tag in here that's attached to just a little piece of card that came from making this card to tuck inside my pocket. But as I say, that's quite up to you what you put in yours. So for part one, I'm going to show you this. Now to make my pocket, I've used this die set from Sizzix and Tim Holtz, and I'm going to use this die that creates this paper packet. So I've already done that. You need 2 per pocket, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little paper bag pocket together and then add the colour. So this one, because I was thinking, you know, if I've got it inside a journal or something, you don't need to see the back, but you could colour this first if you want to, colour a page and then cut it out. It's quite up to you, but I'm just going to put it together first and then add the colour. I'm going to do 2 because whenever I use Dinkles, which is what we'll be doing, I do a print with the inky stencil. So what we need to do is we need these side bits folded, one of these sticking out for here, and then these bits go on the back. So we'll get another one. Now I use a glue stick, but if you are less messy than me, you can use Bippity Boppity glue. And we'll glue this in, maybe this way around. There we go. And then these 2 bits, I'll just stick that there. And this is coming around here. So like I say, just glue it whichever way you would find easiest. This one I'll do the other way around just to show you. There we go. We have 2 pockets ready for inking. Right, let's add some colour to these. So I'm going to be using Lime Divine Dinkles because it's one of the paler colours and it works with the whole teapot in a nature area. And I'm going to use the flower spray stencil. And like I say, I'm just doing it on one side, but you can do it on the back if you want to. So sprinkle my dinkles with a quick spritz. Now this has got other colours on from other sprays. It's got some bits of orange, let me just see, burnt orange from doing the inside, so it will pick that up. I like that, but it just means that it's not, I'm just letting you know, it's not a pure lime green print on from a clean stencil. Give that a bit bit of a roll with my kitchen roll. Now these pockets are just made from quality copy paper, so not your value stuff, but so it will take a bit of water. Let's give that a blast. So like I say, it will take a bit of water, but not a ton of it, and the type of paper will affect how much that bleeds out. So there we go. So I'm going to demo with this piece, but absolutely do this one as well. Right. So that's nice and dry. I'm going to tear off a piece of paper ready for my grounding for my teapot to sit. Although actually I've stamped this and cut it out on top, so there's not a lot of, don't need to do a lot of worrying about grounding and placement immediately. So I'm inking this in Pinecone, leaving a bit of a gap at the bottom, as I say, for the ground. And then I'm going to stamp it again, depending on how much colour. If you want a really deeply coloured teapot, you could totally colour over that with your Mondelez pencils, but I'm going to stamp mine again on a piece of paper. There we are, that's better. And we need to find some scissors. Trying very hard to keep scissors in at homes, but they still seem to walk. Don't know about yours, whether your scissors have legs. Anyway, so there we go. That's our teapot. Let's give it a bit of ground so we know where the flowers are growing. And I'm going to use truffle and my little brush. When I first saw these, I was like, do I really need little brushes? Oh my goodness me. I love them because anybody that knows me knows I love to make little things, and you can just kind of get into the detail where a big brush would be harder. So we've got that. I'm going to get a green. Let's go with, should we do a bit of green sleeves? And I'm just in here again is where the little brush kind of comes into its own, because I'm just colouring in, as it were. I'm giving it a green glow, a bit like the Ready Brett glow. Anybody that's in the UK and old enough to remember that advert. So, highlighting that green around the edge. And look at that. Green sleeves and lime green dinkles. Who knew? Well, obviously Tracy who designed them to coordinate, but how fab is that? I'm going to use orchard grass to add some leafy bits around the back, and I'm going to use rainforest for this one. Now I will need to mask this off a bit. I should use the other end, but it's part of a big piece and it would mean getting out. So I can stamp all over this because I'm going to pop, I don't need to mask it off because I'm going to pop a coloured one on top. But if you've coloured yours with, or you're going to colour yours with pencil crayons, you will need to mask it off at this point. Should we have some peeping out at the top? I didn't do that before, but make it look like it's nestled amongst the grasses, waiting for the fairies to make a home. Or the little robin. He'd look lovely on the handle there, wouldn't he? There we go. So we've got some grasses behind there. While we're doing some background stuff, let's add a bit of text. So I'm stamping it off just so it's a bit paler, and let's give it a bit. It's adding a bit more texture. And we can get a dark green in a bigger brush. And let's go around here. Now it's up to you. If you wanted to have a contrast here, I've done a dark contrast on this one. So I've gone in with my stencil brush and made it darker. We could do the opposite and make it lighter. In which case we would need to just mask that off with a bit of paper. Like that. Go around. And if you wanted it a bit darker or a different colour completely, then I just went in with my little brush, kind of shuffled it down. There we go. Now we just want to grab pieces. So I'm going to colour in my teapot so I can add it on here. Now I did, again, a green teapot, but you choose what you want to use. I also coloured the handle. I'm not colouring these side pieces because they'd be way too fiddly to add, and you don't need to. I'm varying the pressure of my pencil, so some areas are a bit darker than others. And I sharpened it so I could get some bit of detail in there. I'm going to colour this door in. I'm taking my strokes in the line that the door is. And then these pencils are just so beautiful for layering with, as well as colouring in. They're beautifully waxy. Else it has to be exactly the same. This one. That's the one a dish. You can add a bit of water if you want, make it look a bit more painterly. Smooth, I should say, probably. Or you can leave it with the texture of the pencil. But there we go. So as I've used water, give it a blast. And then all we need to do is cut it out. Now I'm cutting this exactly along the lines of the stamp image. I'm not cutting it leaving a border like this. I'm cutting it along because I want to make it look like it's integrated and completely part of that stamped image. But like I say, I'm not bothering with those thin handles. got that detail already on there. Now, we don't really think about the thickness of such paper-thin paper, as it were, until you're trying to mask something off. And also, when you're doing something like this, sometimes it can just add a bit of a finish, and you won't see any of that white edge, depending on how thick your paper is, but sometimes it's worth having a go at that. Add a bit of glue. And let's glue that on to our pocket. So I'm just going to add a bit more depth with that underneath the teapot. Found my little brush, there it is. Make it a little bit darker. This is truffle. There we go. I also add little bits of stamping up here. I can find my brown one. Just thinking, quite nice to have a bit more texture up there. Let's go with that. Just adding a bit more contrast. It's quite plain down here, so I'm going to add a bit more there. It's just the way the stencil came out. And then we just need to find the other bits of that teapot I just coloured in. Aha. Thought I was going to have to stamp another one then. And I'm just going to cut out along that bar, because that would be the thicker bit anyway of the handle. Let's just finish off those edges with what's left on my brush. And add that onto there. And there we have, grab this out, there we have our little pocket. You could even add a word in there if you wanted. There's a suitable one. I mean, any of these would work, wouldn't they? Today is a new day. Let's add that to here. Just going to go around with a bit of green. That's not which one I have then. Just to kind of make it look like it belongs. So there we go. A little paper bag pouch for your journal, for a card, for whatever you want, really. Putting nice things in. Thanks so much for joining me. Let you know if you make one, I'd love to see.